Princeton Reverb. I have had mine for just over a year now, and so now it's time to give you a more in-depth review, because reviews always carry more weight when it's something that you've had experience with and actually used. So let's dive in with some tone, and then I'm going to share with you my experiences with the Princeton for the past year. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy. Alright, so this is an amp that I just absolutely love. It's a special, it's a fun amp, it's charming in all the right ways, and one of the things that I talked about in my first review that I love about it is Princeton players. There's something about Princeton players where they kind of get it. They kind of get what they need, good tone, and what they need. It's no more than they need, it's no less than they need. And so there's kind of a, when you see another Princeton player out there, there's kind of this just like, okay, you get it. Because they really do give you everything that you need. And I love the adage from 5 Watt World that was, if your Princeton is not loud enough, then your band is too loud. I think that's really true. Now, obviously, there's some people in, hard rock bands or different kinds of bands where Princeton might not be enough, and so that doesn't necessarily apply to everyone genre-wise, but I think for a lot of the genres that the Princeton would be good for, it really is more than you expect you need. The one variable there could be if you're playing in a band where you need a lot of clean headroom. Even in that case, I mean, this is a loud and present amp, and especially if you're being mic'd up. So I've definitely found that this amp covers a lot of ground. Now, it hasn't been entirely without issue. This amp has not been the most reliable one that I've ever had. Now, I did get it used, but I got it used in like new condition. And when you get stuff used, and I mean, I do a lot of trading, a lot of buying and selling, you know, this was not abused. This was an amp from a nice guy, and it looked essentially brand new, and he's, you know, very trustworthy. I have no reason to believe this amp was abused or tampered with in any way. It looked, you know, it was completely pristine. But, you know, I've had problems with pretty scratchy pots, and the reverb right now is actually not working. If you notice, the reverb is at 0, and so the reverb you're listening to today is from a Wampler Reflection. So it hasn't been entirely without issue. Now, being a production level amplifier, yeah, there's some that are going to be slightly off the mark. There are going to be some that don't quite, you know, I've had good experiences with Fender overall, to the point where I'm probably primarily a Fender player, both guitars and amplifiers. You know, there's a lot of guitars that I love, so I wouldn't say I'm, you know, I'm certainly not an exclusive Fender player when it comes to guitars, but amplifiers, like, if it was like, hey, you can only play this one brand of amplifier, Fender is the tone that I'm most comfortable with. You know, while there are certainly other amps that I love, that's kind of where I live. So, that being said, you know, you got to be aware that whenever you buy something that's kind of consumer production level, even if it's something that's more than $1,000, there might be a couple of bad ones that sort of squeak through the assembly line there. This one's not necessarily a bad one, it just hasn't been the most reliable. So that's something to take into consideration. I think if I could only keep one amp, you know, while this one would at least be in the running. I don't know that I could, you know, accurately say, oh, it would just be this one, but like this one would be a top consideration because it just does everything. You can actually get to a semi-overdriven tone if you use a, you know, an aggressive guitar at a reasonable volume, you know, at a certainly a rehearsal or a gig volume. It takes pedals beautifully. It has the right expansive kind of Fender blackface tone, but in a way that cuts really well, but then without being too bright. Absolutely love the tone, and again, it's very much just like it gives you what you need, nothing more, nothing less. So that's my experience with a Princeton. Now let's get back to some playing here. Today I'm using two guitars. I'm using a Fender American Original Telecaster. This is a limited edition 50s model in the Mary Kay style, and also using my Gibson ES345. Now, because this amp takes pedals like a champ, and I believe that that's the best way to get an overdriven tone out of this, you are also hearing it with a Wampler Belle, like you saw at the beginning. I'm going to play some more tones. You're going to play it with the Wampler Belle as well as just some great clean tones, because it's just absolutely great clean representation of what your guitar just should sound like. Now there's one other thing about this amp that is important to mention, and that is I do have a Weber speaker in there. It's a Weber 10F150T. This is a great speaker. I've done a shootout. I'm going to link to the shootout right there. Also, as far as the overdrives go, that was done based on experience, and the Wampler was probably my favorite for this amp. There's the other ones that I really like, and I kind of change my mind every so often, but the Wampler Belle just works beautifully for this amp, and I did an overdrive shootout with this amp, which you can see right here. So we've got a couple of different shootouts for you. Now the Weber speaker, that was a sponsored one, but there was nothing in the sponsorship that said, hey, keep the speaker in your amp. I absolutely love that speaker. It makes it a bit bigger sounding, a bit deeper sounding, a little bit more volume and push, and it kind of has this 3D expansiveness. Jensen was fine, a little bit punchier, a little bit brighter, tone kind of sat on top more. The Weber kind of gives me more of an expansive feel, which I really like. I think it's a great speaker for this amplifier. So let's dive back in with some tone. Let us know in the comments. Are you a Princeton player? Have you seen my other Princeton videos? What do you think of them? Do you prefer the deluxe reverb? Do you prefer other various amplifiers? Or is this the amp that you just absolutely have to have? Let us know. Please stick around for some more tones. I'm Jack Fossett. We'll see you next time.